Hey guys, welcome to the gun shop, and today we have Tonny from Laksen with us, and we're going to start off by talking about Laksen before divulging into
Other bits.
I wouldn't say more exciting stuff, but hunting, shooting, fishing yourself, and you're obviously not English.
No, I am Danish.
So
for my sins.
But you've been here for a while, so
Yes.
you're basically English. But
Scottish.
Scottish. Oh,
Yes.
oh.
Yes.
Shouldn't have invited you on, really, should I?
Point that out.
So you're basically British.
Yes.
by
Let's put it that
proxy.
way.
Cool. Laksen.
Yes.
Let's start with Laksen. So tell me about Laksen.
Well, the first thing I would say is that the name, being Danish, is the Danish word for salmon.
Okay.
We've kept the name, although we had changed away from fishing many years ago now.
So how did the company start?
The company started in Denmark with making handmade fishing rods. They were some of the finest fly fishing rods you could get in the world at the time,
Right.
and were sought after worldwide.
When was it?
Founded in 1977.
Mm-hmm.
Then after that, added on fishing clothing. Found out that the real spirit of the owners were not fishing after that, but shooting. So left the fishing alone and went into shooting and hunting though. I know that we're mostly over here still known for our tweeds, and we do love tweed for all its benefits and for the style it has and the heritage. And we were the first company to put a Gore-Tex membrane into a sporting tweed product back in the early 90s.
Okay. And everyone subsequently now does that as a matter of course.
It is, but that's like many other things. You know, someone has to start and then it becomes the norm.
Yeah.
We changed away from Gore-Tex a few years ago and now work with our own CTX membrane, which is
Just as good or similar, I guess.
it's maybe a little bit controversial, but I would argue it's better.
Okay.
You have all the waterproofness that you need, same as you would have with a Gore membrane, but you have almost twice as much breathability. And the breathability comes into play when you're walking uphill, for instance.
How does it work? I mean, for those of us who aren't
Well,
technically au fait with how Gore-Tex works in the first place.
Well, the whole membrane is it's a sheet of material with a lot of tiny holes in it, and the holes are adjusted. So after a certain amount of pressure, you can press water through it, and that is measured in millimeters. Our membrane has 20,000 millimeters water pressure, and Gore are around 28,000.
Okay.
So that's the waterproofness of a membrane. On the other hand, the bigger you make the holes, and these are tiny holes, the more of the moisture that your body produces can get released through the membrane. As I said, ours actually lets through 30,000 grams of moisture per square meter per day.
Okay, so it is more breathable but less waterproof than Gore-Tex.
Less waterproof, however, it is adequate waterproof.
Indeed.
If you put all your weight down on one knee while wearing your shooting gear and everything else on soggy ground, that's the most pressure you can, as a person, put into a membrane. And that roughly is around 15,000 millimeters. So being 20,000, we cover that easily. And I would say I've never gotten wet and have had big benefits of having the extra breathability when walking uphill in Scotland and then sitting on top of the hill looking around with the wind that happens once in a while, not being cooled down quite as much.
Okay, so moving out of technicality,
Yes,
you introduced Gore-Tex into your tweeds in the 90s.
We did, and have continued to develop the tweed range. We always run 3 men's tweeds and 2 every year, 2 for women, and we also have we believe quite a nice selection of technical stalking equipment, lightweight shooting jackets. We have a good selection of shirts, corduroy
It's
trousers.
all European made as well, which is...
A few things are still made Far East.
Yeah.
The majority of our products are now European production. We use Scottish tweed in all our tweed products. We use Italian wool, and whereas we can, we produce it within Europe for convenience and quality.
Which is quite nice, really.
I think it is.
Yeah. Okay. So is the same range that we have here the same range they have in the rest of the world, I presume?
The full range is available for everyone, no matter where you are in the world. There are, of course, products that sell better in certain regions.
Okay. How does that geographical set? Something about that. So presumably you don't sell the same items let's say, here in the south of England to Scotland, to Denmark, to Germany?
No, I would say for the UK specifically, I was expecting when I moved over 15 years ago and had to learn about the trade, I was expecting there would be a bigger kind of national Scottish, English, Welsh difference. There isn't. The difference is on individual shops. So where some shops are very focused on the stalking gear and go for the green technical jackets, trousers, and others are more game shooting minded, and they of course stock more tweeds and shooting vests, etc. But you can't say the northern shops do this and the southwest do that. It is all a lovely mixture, which means that luckily most people can get more or less whatever they want wherever they live. And if not, then we can change that.
Difficult question. Do you get what you pay for, do you think? I mean, you're obviously contractually obliged to say so.
I think I would be in trouble if I didn't say yes. But I think I can back that up as well.
Okay.
In very, very much our philosophy when we produce and develop a new product, if we don't, being the development team and the owners and everything else, if we don't believe that the product is value for money, we won't do it. Because we believe that one, our retailers won't buy from us, but also if they did, they wouldn't sell it on. And there's no point spending time and energy into producing a product that you don't see having a benefit at the end of the line. We're not at the lowest range of the market on price.
Quite high up there, really.
We are top of the range with a few other brands.
I don't think there's any shame in that.
No,
but watering it down.
But I think that the reasoning behind it or the benefit of it is that our quality control has to be high. That goes not just for us, but any high-end brand. Whenever people say that you're paying for the name, most of the times that's used as a negative term. In my book, it's a positive, because once you've spent years and invested a lot of money in developing a high-end brand, you can't afford to let that quality slip.
Which is the case, unfortunately, with a few of the other high-end brands that they have potentially sold out a little bit and their after sales aren't what they should be for the price.
Probably best that I don't comment on that.
Probably best that you don't.
But I think
from my personal experience, I can comment that there is certain other brands that I probably wouldn't trust, and unfortunately do stock. Unfortunately, they're good product until they break, in which case actually there becomes a fight when they should not be at that.
That shouldn't be necessary.
Buying the name level.
No, and again, it's once you have the name, once you have the recognition of being a high-end quality product, even if it's just not just the after service, if you release a product that is to a lower standard, you're shooting yourself in the foot really quickly, and that name will take a beating. Which means that anyone that has a high-end name known for quality must use the right quality products and really put a lot of energy and effort into maintaining the quality control.
So the Laksen team, apart from yourself, you obviously shoot, stalk, fish, the lot.
As much as I can get my hands on, yes.
Yeah, as much as you are allowed apart from your job, I suppose.
Yes.
Does the whole team have that same ethos?
Very, very, yes, with few exceptions. Our accountant doesn't shoot a fish.
It's probably the best.
Potentially. But everyone else in the company actually enjoys going out and wearing the products. Which also means that more or less we will have different areas that we prefer. Some are more into stalking, and some are more into game shooting, and some do dog shooting, wetlands. So we all use more or less every product that we produce. And again, if we wouldn't use it, there's no point us doing it really, with very few exceptions. So we are quality conscious, and we know what we want. Yeah. And hopefully that shines through the range and is also in line with what everybody else wants. Yeah. That's our hope anyway.
Hopefully.
We'll keep going.
Yeah. Something like that anyway. So you moved here 15 years ago.
I did.
You'd been to Britain before, I presume?
We have, yes, I visited London and Scotland on holidays a few times.
Okay, so coming from Denmark, should we start with Danish hunting culture? Can you lay that out on the table?
There's quite a few big differences. The biggest difference is that you can't shoot any live game until you're 16 in Denmark.
Wow.
And before you do that, you have to pass a test.
Okay.
And that test is a two-part test. The first test is a theoretical test, where you have to prove a certain knowledge of law, of game recognition, of game biology.
And this is for large and small game?
That is all-inclusive in the theoretical test.
Okay.
So it's everything from your red deer to your partridge and pigeons, what the life circle is, when they breed, how many youngs they get, etc., etc. So there's a lot of common knowledge that you have to have.
Which I think is really good in itself.
Yeah, so do I. And it's most people will have that anyway. But having the test system and having a system set up means that you ensure that everyone knows it before they start.
What do you do as a kid?
You can. I went out with my dad.
Okay.
And
so you can go along. But
you can go along as from you when you can walk. And I was happy to be out beating, picking up, standing next to him, going out on an evening.
So there is a lot of driven game shooting in Denmark,
there is,
from what you're saying.
Yes, there's a lot of hunting or shooting happening in Denmark as well, for being a small country. But once you pass your written test, then you have to pass a shooting test with your shotgun, where you have to hit stuff.
No.
I don't know the exact numbers, but I think it's something hitting like 16 out of 24 clay pigeons.
And what, a sort of trap style, a skeet style?
Yeah, it's going away.
Yeah.
Crossing right over you, left and right.
Oh, so you have to show some basic proficiency.
You do, yes. And you have to. Then you can go out shooting shotgun game, which is, of course, birds, hares, and roe deer that you're allowed to shoot in Denmark with shotguns.
So a quick segue, or a quick diversion. Shooting roe deer with a shotgun.
Yes.
You've done it?
I have.
What loads do you use?
Well, the majority uses 12 gauge.
Yeah.
And I would say anything from 30 grams threes down to, if you're on a specific roe deer, then you would use size 1. The maximum distance you would shoot at is between 12 and 15 meters.
So it's fairly close.
It is close.
Tight chokes, tight patterns.
Exactly. And I have to say, from experience, you would normally shoot them on a not a driven day, but a pushed through day. So they would be in motion,
like a move.
Exactly. They would be in motion, and they would be tense. And once the muscles in an animal is tense, and you hit them with a pattern that size,
mass atrophy and death.
They drop. Yeah. And I've actually never seen. I know it can happen, but I've never seen a roe deer being hit and running off like you sometimes do with a rifle bullet. That you hit it, it's dead. You've taken out the heart. It's still
but
running.
It will run,
With this, the shock effect is much bigger, and they just drop.
You think the foot poundage of 15-yard shotgun with a decent load in it is
it will
devastating.
It works absolutely.
Meat damage or just
there is some.
Are you going heart and lung sort of?
You would chest region really, but it's like any other game. You will find pellets in a pheasant, and if you make sure you take them out, it's fully edible and no problems at all.
Wow. And you don't see any issue there whatsoever?
No. Again, as long as you treat any type of shooting with respect.
I don't, but obviously it's illegal here, so it's not something that we...
No, absolutely. And but if you treat it with respect, if you ensure the maximum distance, if you stick to that, it's not just a guideline, it's law, you're fine.
Okay. Sorry, back to
that's
the
fine.
point. Yeah.
If you want to go stalking bigger deer, being it Sika, fallow or red,
you have Sika.
We have all 3 species in Denmark. You have to use a rifle, and before you can use your rifle on any type of stalking, you also have to pass a test, and that is 100 meters, 6 shots, and 5 of those have to be within a circle of 20 centimeters, unless they've changed it within the last couple of years. It's a few years.
Okay, it's not super strict.
That's on a roe target.
Okay.
With a picture of a roe, and you do not have a white disc. Okay. So it's like over here.
You just got to put it in a kill shot zone.
You have to put it in that shoulder region, and then.
And that's off of sticks.
Sticks, lying or sitting. You can kind of choose your own hunting-related position.
Are you allowed moderators?
Just over the last couple of years, yes.
Okay. So I presume that will probably draw in with moderators as a sort of somewhere along the line.
It just helps. And again, it's personal opinion. If you can't put 5 out of 6
in a 20 centimeter circle at 100 yards,
sitting or lying down within 100 meters, you probably shouldn't No, you definitely shouldn't go out on living.
There is obviously certain equipment things, and some guns, older guns potentially, that you might want to take out might not be capable of that. Well, we should be capable of that, but not much.
But again, if they're not capable of doing that,
probably shouldn't be shooting deer.
You shouldn't be using them on live game. No,
definitely not. Which is always a shame to commit them to the death. But I don't know. There's got to be some kind of balance there, isn't there? If you've got an old gun that, let's say, shoots a group at 50 meters, but not at 100. I mean, in Denmark, probably wouldn't cut it. But over here, you could sort of go, I will limit myself.
You could do that in Denmark as well, as long as you have a rifle that you can use
to shoot
to pass
20 centimeters at 100 meters.
Exactly. After that, it is entirely up to you to make sure that you use tools that are adequate for the job.
Most popular calibers?
3006, 308. The reason is that when you shoot anything larger than row, you have to use at least a 6.5 by 55 millimeters with a certain energy in the bullet.
So you might as well have a man-sized gun.
Just go for. I had a 3006 as my first rifle, and it meant that wherever I was invited or wherever I had the opportunity to go, I didn't have to think, if one of those comes by, I can't shoot. So, it does everything, and you can get ammo everywhere in the world for those as well. Yeah.
So you've passed your shooting test, and you can then just go out.
If you can find land where you get permission to go.
Okay, so there's no public land.
No public land. We do have public access to the sea.
Okay.
So if you acquire yourself a boat, that is legal, which means it has a really small engine.
And you catch a deer swimming between two islands.
Then you can shoot ducks. But that's the only kind of free shooting that we have. Denmark's a small country. It's half the size of Scotland, more or less the same population as Scotland. And we have 130-ish thousand licensed hunters.
That's a fair whack of the population, isn't it?
It is, and it means that the land parcels are really small. And
similar to the south of England, everyone's scrabbling over tiny little bits.
Yes, but with the added difference that you have a lot more small privately owned areas of land.
Okay.
We don't have as many big estates as we do over here. So it's hard to come by shooting, and it's expensive. Which is why you see a lot of Danes coming over here, going to Sweden, going to Germany.
Does that sort of lend itself to less quality deer, seeing as everybody's out shooting?
Very controversial area, but yes.
Okay.
Unfortunately, being high prices, you want to shoot something. And
if you've paid a big lease and you've got 3 deer on your ground, you might.
I guess it's human nature. But it is. A lot of areas are managed well, and a lot of places do have kind of good agreements between neighbors and say, we'll shoot this type of deer, and if it's a nice, promising 4-pointer, we'll leave him for next year and that sort of thing. But a lot of areas are simply, I have to shoot that because if I don't, then he will. Yeah, and that limits your ability to kind of grow big
bucks. Yeah. Not all big anything.
But that's like everywhere else.
There's problems like in every area, isn't there? When people are inherently selfish. Unfortunately, it takes a bigger man to speak to their neighbour and go, shall we not shoot this one?
Yeah.
And then hope that nobody else does in that same sort of thing.
But if more people did it, we would all, within a few years, actually see the benefits.
Yes, indeed. That would be wonderful, wouldn't it?
That'd be lovely.
Yeah. It's not going to happen today.
No, but we'll keep working.
It's a big change, isn't it? Certainly. Well, again, it's the difference. And every area of the country is different. But around here, it's lots of value, lots of meat value, and people will just not come over because there's a lot of that meat value. There's a lot of crop damage involved with them. So trying to find decent value apart from those on sort of the New Forest fringes where they can disappear and, as you say, just get left alone to grow old.
But then you have to be lucky to actually catch them when they put their head out.
Indeed. We both know a man who can put you in front of them. But
that's true.
It gets expensive.
Yes.
But worthwhile. Okay, so
those are, I was historically those are the biggest difference that I find. Another one is that the Danish way or traditional have been that everybody did everything. So you would do your spring roebuck stalking with your rifle, and then when the pigeon season, duck season started in September, used to be August. For pigeons anyway, you would do that, and then the game season started.
So there's a pigeon season?
Yes, which starts, again, I'm not completely up to I think it's 1st of November.
Right, and that has less, you have less pigeon, they have,
There are less pigeons. They are still a problem for farmers and would be classified as a pest. The reason why the season has been postponed from when I started shooting many years ago now, when I was 16, I believe the pigeon started on the 1st of August. It's then come to light that pigeons still have offspring, young ones, in the nest in August. So it was moved to September. Then they found out that pigeons still reproduce in September and October. So it's now been pushed up until, I believe, it's November now. It could be October.
It's a short killing season, isn't it? If you think about the actual amount. But certainly if you put that in place over here, it would be a very...
Yes.
It's a lot of shooting in a small period of time.
Yes. But same as like over here, you can apply for a regulation license. Okay. You can't do it in the same way as you would hunting them with decoys. There's a lot of restrictions to it. But those problem areas can still...
You can apply for a license, go and destroy nests or something. Almost.
No, you would have to still go out and shoot the pigeons, but
you couldn't do it easily.
Not as quite as easily, no. So the numbers for pigeons, the big days have dropped, but again, it's
hence we get the visitors over here for now at least.
Yes.
Okay. What about sort of hunting culture? Apart from the sort of regulations, do you find? I mean, I presume the driven game culture is similar in certainly the driven bird culture.
It is and it isn't. Okay. And that's again one thing I found interesting and frustrating is that there's a lot of syndicate shooting in Denmark, where people would get together with 3 or 4 pieces of land, rent it in a group of 8 to 10 people, do a lot of maintenance, a lot of planting, a lot of looking after it.
Working men, sort of.
And then that would be their ground for the season. Okay. So they would do 5 or 6 or 7 shoots where, stand one, beat one, shoot one, go that sort of thing.
And release birds as part of that?
You would release birds. Okay. Again, you're limited to the number of birds you can release in an area. If you go over a certain number, you have to show the authorities a management plan that you have to develop. So we're doing this type of planting here and over here to make sure that there is enough cover, enough food.
Wow.
So you can't just put out...
Is each bit of land individual, or is it kind of a blanket acreage system?
If you go over a certain number of birds, you will have to create a plan for your land and prove it that it's manageable and it
works. That system works, or
I believe it does. Yeah, and I believe it's given us a better reputation along the non-shooting community that we actually can prove now that we provide all this management. The management happens over here as well.
Yeah,
it's just not commonly known.
Yeah, nobody wants to talk about it.
I'm happy to talk about it because if you took away game shooting tomorrow, a lot of the planting, a lot of the wild hedgerows, a lot of the flowers, a lot of the grassy areas that you see along the cornfields and the maize fields and everything else, there are lots of strips that are
voluntary,
only there because they benefit not just pheasants or partridge, they benefit all the wildlife.
Well, the pheasants and partridge pay for it, and that's the bottom line, right?
Exactly. So there's a massive benefit to that, and by having estates create a management plan, we can take that, put it forward, and say, this is what we do.
This is what we do. This is how many we release. This is how many we shoot. Everything is completely regulated, I presume.
And more importantly, this is what it benefits.
And obviously, it's quite a pertinent thing in the UK at the moment because this is what people are pushing. It's what certainly the opposition is pushing for, and I think certainly, again, without sort of sounding too controversial, I think this is where we should go. I see no issue with telling people how many you should release and how many you shoot, because you have to be justifiable. It means you have to.
If you don't want to stand by what you do, you probably shouldn't be doing it.
It looks like you're hiding something, right?
Yeah,
eternally.
I've been shooting and been part of shooting since I was very small.
Some many years ago.
Many years ago, and I've seen the full aspect of how we commit man hours, huge amounts of money into it as well.
Vast amounts, yeah.
Yeah, and I've seen the benefits, and I don't think it's something we should hide. I think it's something we should be proud of, and it's my personal experience that when you explain to people that are outside of our very quite small community what we do, how we do it, and why we do it, more often than not, they actually go away and going, do you know what? Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah. So it is. I think it's a big mission of ours is to actually go out and provide information and facts.
Actual facts.
Facts.
Which is quite nice.
Yes.
I was about to say something that will get me in trouble, so I'm not going to say that.
Good man.
So does that lend itself to there is less commercial shooting in Denmark? Or, because obviously that's the thing that people are concerned about over here. And there's a huge amount of money tied up with the more commercial aspect. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that because it does, as we say, filter it down. But I also feel that there is a level after which actually it is not justifiable. You do take too much out of the land. You're taking more out than you're putting in. You are creating no benefit. And I'm not saying far from every shoot, but there is a handful of shoots that are not ecologically sound. Do you have larger scale commercial shoots in Denmark, and they just have to do more for conservation?
We do have shoots that shoot a number of days a year and provide big days. But they can do that because they have the land to do it, the topography to do it, and they have the management system in place. So they commit a lot, again, money and man hours put into this land that will benefit not just the birds they shoot, but every piece of wildlife, insects, everything on this piece of land.
Yeah, and there obviously comes a management thing there. I don't know if you read, released a few days ago, the RSPB's list of things that they shot and their explanation for why they've done it, essentially pinning it all on the shooting community.
I haven't read it. No,
It is worth a read. It's quite short, but it's worth the read. And essentially, they give the list and they go, well, look, we don't have to do it everywhere. Look at, they give an example of a place near Saddleworth Moor that they have. They said, we chose not to do pest and predator control, although that would obviously have boosted the breeding success of wading birds, but we decided to let it run its natural course. And you go, well, why wouldn't you, do that? And then they go, but most of the reason we have to control crows and foxes is because the shooting community release X birds and just use it as an opportunity to wave their flag. Again, I don't know, but it's a different mindset, isn't it? It's a mindset of saying that management has to exist.
Yeah.
And it's the beauty of the Danish way, certainly from what you've said, is that you can justify it. You go, well, yeah, we shoot foxes. I presume you shoot the foxes and crows and corvids and do the same pest control as we do over here.
Absolutely.
And this is why. And they actually, I guess you have to have that management plan, and at any point you can pull that out and throw it in someone's face and go, I like that. I think that's something that we should be aiming for.
Again, I think some of the keepers could be without the kind of paperwork.
Of course.
But they would still be doing...
Survive.
Yeah, that's like anything else. Sometimes you have to document what you do to prove it. But I think overall, without what we do to the land that we have, it wouldn't be nearly as diverse and beautiful as it is.
Yeah, agreed. Wholeheartedly agreed. So what's your favourite type of shooting, fishing, hunting, anything altogether?
It's hard to pick because I enjoy all of it.
Yeah.
I like my stalking. And particularly...
What rifle are you on currently?
I shoot a blaster.
Yeah.
An old R93 that I've had for many years and will probably hopefully stay with me till I...
A while longer. Yeah.
Yes, because we had a history now. We know each other. So yeah, I do that, and I'd say roe deer is my favourite. It's what I had access to when I started stalking, because although we have quite a lot of larger deer in Denmark, it's hard to get invited.
Yeah.
So roe is my...
So is roe viewed as a sort of lesser species still? Or?
No. Roe is very sought after in Denmark, and if you can count it a common man's deer, because roe deer are everywhere.
Yeah.
There's nowhere in Denmark that roe deer aren't
very
present.
similar to here.
Yes, whereas the other type of deer do have certain areas where they're present. Where you have larger forest, you will find the CK. If you don't have big forest, then they won't leave. And then I like the social part of a game day or driven. So catching up with old friends, afterwards having a drink, having a good laugh, and shooting a few birds. That's enjoyable as well. I take my dog out and shoot a few pigeons here and there, and I enjoy all of it.
That sounds like you wouldn't give any of it up. I'm pretty much the same. I don't think.
I would struggle to give any of it up really, and I couldn't really pick my favorite. Not on tape anyway. When I started in 1997 as an apprentice in a gun shop in Denmark,
Yeah.
on my first day I bought two items. One was a Laksen leather shooting vest, and one was a Laksen pair of gaiters.
Okay.
I had no intentions of moving to Scotland 15 years later or 10 years later to start working for Laksen. It just happened to work that way. I still use both. So our gaiters are durable. These are now 22 years old, and I'll be wearing them on Thursday. The leather shooting vest I wear less often because it's
less fashionable over here.
I'm not really I wear my leather breeks occasionally over here, so I'm not a slave to that. But I just have lighter weight options.
Yeah.
And it's usually not cold enough to wear that. That's the main thing. But I would say to gaiters, I'm really happy about those, and we do some really lovely ones. My tweed outfits, not just my shooting outfits, but we do sports jackets, trousers, and dress vest coats as well. And I like to dress for the occasion. I like to make a shoot day special. So by dressing up for it, I feel I kind of give it justice.
Yeah.
And that's that I like. And then having a shooting outfit in the same tweed as my dinner outfit, I think it's quite fun. And I have had a lot of stick for it over the years, but if that's the worst they can throw at me.
There's always certain perks to the job, and looking the part and having the nice stuff has got to be part of it, right?
It is. And then I would say our stocking range, we do a technical smock, which I think is definitely up there, function-wise, weight-wise, quality-wise, use-wise, for whatever's on the market, and it is very reasonably priced compared to everything else. But I'll let you tell someone else about that, because I'm biased.
Of course you are.
Very.
But I'm with you that your stuff is very, very nice. It is very classic at the same time. Again, I have no particular counter to that line. I prefer other technical stuff.
That's fair.
But I think your tweed outfits they are the best. I think, bar going to a tailor and having one made for you. But that is on another level of expense altogether.
Can be, yes.
No, it can be. Unless you go to like Taiwan. Then there's a flight.
Yeah.
And certain dangers that come with that.
And if something goes wrong, it's a long way back to return it.
That is very, very true. Mate, thank you very much for coming on. I look forward to having you again in the future. And obviously absolutely enlightening about the way that Denmark works with their bird releasing. And actually I think there's a lot of things that we as a country could draw from that and potentially get ahead of the curve with. Not that we will, because
there's things that work well over here, and there's things that work well other places. Yeah. And I think it's important that we look outside, both Denmark over here and everywhere. Look outside your own little world and actually adapt whatever's best and works everywhere. That way that's not just in shooting, that's in everything.
Yeah.
Then we stand a fighting chance.
I think that's some very, very wise advice, mate. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And, I'll see you soon.
Absolutely.